Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the HTD Aquatic Spaceboy. This watch is available from htdwatchinstruments.com for €817. HTD stands for Horological Tools Department. They were founded in 2020 in Florence in Italy. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is housed inside this outer cardboard box. On the lid we have the HTD Shield emblem and Aquatic, which is the model name. One removes the lid, which is a snug fit to the base. And this is the watch box itself. As you can see, one pulls down the flap, and I'll take out the watch box and show it to you. So solid wooden watch box, which is dark green matte vinyl coated, and on the lid of the spring loaded hinge lid we have the HTD Shield emblem and Horological Tools Department in silver. Very aesthetically pleasing, grained finish to the dark green vinyl, and every side of it is coated to a good standard, and spring loaded hinge lid. And as you can see, it's made from solid wood. I want to give due credit to HTD here because they could have taken the less expensive default option of using a plastic or cardboard watch box, but this solid wood watch box is high quality. On the underside of the spring-loaded hinge lid, we have the HTD Shield and Horological Tools Department. Base is upholstered with white vinyl to a good standard, and there's a cutout in the centre section which houses this padded pillow cushion. Padded pillow cushion is the same shape and profile as a Rolex padded pillow cushion, and these are excellent because they can expand and contract to fit a 6 to 7.5 inch bracelet size, which is the majority of collectors' wrist sizes, and it is upholstered with white vinyl to a good standard. Good snug fit in the base, so excellent presentation, and immediately one gets the impression that the HTD Aquatic Spaceboy is a high quality piece. With regards to items that come with the piece, this is the guarantee certificate, and I'm pleased to report the watch is covered by a 2-year international warranty. It's stamped with the date of purchase, and also they fill in the model name, which is Aquatic, and the reference number, which is the unique serial number of the piece engraved into the case back. So I'm pleased to see 2 years of international warranty, because often mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands only cover their pieces with a 12-month international warranty, as per low-tier pieces between €0 and €500. Mid-tier, the industry standard is between €500 and €5,000 to have 2 years of international warranty. Good to see HTD provide that. Now, one also gets this Collections 2025 booklet, and this details an introduction to Horological Tools Department, which is abbreviated to HTD, the Hexagraph family, and inside we have high definition images of each of their pieces, the different colour options of the Hexagraph, 5 years of Hexagraph. So when the brand was founded in Florence in Italy in 2020, the Hexagraph was their first model, and it's gone on to be very popular, and they've produced it in a plethora of colour options, such as in 2025 the Cannoli and also the Variant, which are Panda and Reverse Panda respectively. So they're novelties for 2025, as you can see. Beautiful high definition pictures and also high definition diagrams of the pieces. And this effectively also doubles as an owner's instruction manual because it details how to operate the bezels and also the crowns of their pieces. Also details the tennis family, which was another release, and in 2024. As you can see, we have the different colour options. I previously reviewed the Tennis Chic, which is this one here. So if you haven't seen my Tennis Chic review, please feel free to check it out. And it also details the other colour options of the Chic, which is the Sport model. And moving on, we have more information about the tennis. As you can see, high definition diagrams, and this, as I've detailed, is like an owner's instruction manual because it details operating the crown, manually winding it, if you're unfamiliar with that. Next we have the Aquatic, and the Aquatic is a novelty or new release, and they've produced it in 2 versions. The Biccherini, which is a Submariner style dial layout, as you can see, and the one I'm going to be reviewing, which is the Spaceboy, which has 9, 6 and 3 shield printed Arabic numerals on the dial. Also, we have an effective owner's instruction manual. It details the operation of the bezel and also the crown, if you're unfamiliar with that. So excellent. And we've also got the address and contact email for HTD Watches in Florence in Italy. So info@htdwatches.com should you wish to make a warranty claim during the 2-year period of the warranty. So excellent. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 39.4mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 47mm, a thickness of 11.7mm and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push clasp, so we have the perfection personified taper which I often refer to. It is correct for a 39.4. 2-button push clasp, has 4 holes in the flanks as an alternative to a ratcheting micro adjustment mechanism. Now, I'm not going to be critical of this because this is clearly meant to be inspired by skin divers from the 1960s or 1970s. They did use pressed stainless steel clasps with holes in the flanks as an alternative to ratcheting mechanisms because they predated that. But nonetheless, I'd like to see an additional hole drilled in the left and the right hand flank to give 5 holes of micro adjustment versus 4. 4 does suffice, it's a half link of adjustment, but this could be further enhanced with a half link on the 6 and a half link on the 12 side of the bracelet, because sometimes adding or subtracting one full link from an oyster style bracelet doesn't give the desired fit. But on a positive note, the clasp is solid milled 316L grade stainless steel versus being pressed, so it's heavier gauge. Engraved with high definition engraving with the HTD shield emblem, beautiful luster to it, no sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge, no sharp corners, and also large mirror polished bezels which are deep, and that marks the transition between the brushed satin finished body and the brushed satin finished flanks, which have a beautiful luster. We have a box top hat double dome sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished pencil handset. So pencil minute hand, pencil hour hand. What I like about it is the proportions, because unlike a daily wear piece, they've scaled up the proportions of the pencil hands, so they're more like the proportions of a dive piece using Submariner hands or snowflake hands, for example. They're broader and also longer. So pencil minute hand extends all the way to the circumference of the dial, and also the minute ticks, which are enlarged in white to give the piece a vintage aesthetic. The pencil hour hand is also correctly proportioned in length because the tip of it extends all the way to the printed indices and also the 9, 6 and 3 shield Arabic numerals, which give the piece a vintage aesthetic. Second hand is also long enough. The arrowhead tip extends all the way to the circumference of the dial and the white minute ticks. So proportions of the handset is good for this dial size. Matte black dial. Legibility is enhanced because rather than using a glossy enamel dial, which would be very shiny and reflective and diminish legibility, alternatively a sunray black dial, they've used a matte black dial. It's smooth rather than being textured, but of course matte black does give the piece a vintage aesthetic, rather like a 1960s or 1970s skin diver, which this is clearly inspired by. What I like about the dial is the quality of the printing. Quality of the large white minute ticks is high definition and crisp. The HTD shield emblem at 12 is high definition and crisp, and also Aquatic, the model name, and 200M/660 feet is also clearly legible. The font is sharp and crisp, it's high definition, it's not too thick and blurry, and I like the dial isn't over-branded with unnecessary text and specification to make it too busy and cluttered. Often mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands make the mistake of printing too much information, too much specification on the dial. For example, 4 or 5 lines of text at 6 o'clock. The dial looks therefore too busy and cluttered. HTD have got it correct. Just the HTD shield at 12 and then Aquatic with a water resistance rating. Perfectly balanced. What I like about the dial as well is it's balanced because it's symmetrical versus asymmetrical. There is no date complication at the default position of 3 or 6 o'clock. We simply have the large 9, 6 and 3 shield indices with the large Arabic numerals. The 9, 6 and 3 shield Arabic numerals remind me of a Yemen Superman from the 1960s, or alternatively a Norris Diver 65 from 1965. It does give the piece a vintage aesthetic, which is clearly what HTD were intending. And I like the perfect symmetry of the dial. Looks very well balanced with a large index at 12 o'clock, and it balances the 9, 6 and 3. Perfect symmetry to the dial. Very aesthetically pleasing. Solid 316L grade stainless steel bezel, and it is scallops. The large scallops on the bezel remind me of an Omega Seamaster Professional, but it's not as deep. So the bezel is low profile, which gives the piece a vintage aesthetic, but the large scallops make a refreshing change from using the default option of a gear tooth or coin edge bezel for a vintage aesthetic piece like a skin diver. Very aesthetically pleasing bezel. Now, the scallops are brushed satin finished to a beautiful luster, but the edge of the bezel is mirror polish, which complements the mirror polish flanks of the head of the piece. They've done a very good job of the bezel finishing. Aluminium bezel inserts with minute ticks and also hour markers, as well as 15, 30 and 45 Arabic numerals. I like it. Black anodized matte finish rather than being a glossy enamel finish as per a ceramic bezel insert or sapphire bezel insert. Now, subjectively, collectors could be critical of this because they could say, well, this is a 2025 piece, so therefore, strictly speaking, HTD could upgrade it to modern day specifications such as sapphire, crystal, or alternatively ceramic bezel insert, because of course, needless to say, that would be more hard and scratch resistant. But using aluminium bezel insert like this does give the piece a vintage aesthetic as per a 1960s or 1970s skin diver. It does look very aesthetically pleasing with the silver minute ticks or dots and also the hour markers. So it does give the impression of a vintage piece. I like it. So correctly proportioned, low profile scalloped bezel. Head of the piece is solid 3160 grade stainless steel. I like the large mirror polished bevels on the internals of the lugs. They look rather like twisted or lyre lugs used on the Omega Seamaster, and I like that shape. Large mirror polished bevels which run the full length of the case. They mark the transition between the top of the brushed satin finished lugs and the flawless mirror polished flanks. Large mirror polished bevels do look aesthetically pleasing, and they do delete the sharp edge on the transitions. Case shape is beautiful, low profile flanks. What I like is it's not a thick slab of 3160 grade stainless steel. This piece is only 11.7mm, and you can see how low profile the flanks are. They've deleted a lot of the meat by reducing the depth or the thickness of the flanks. Flawless mirror polishing to the flanks is absolutely beautiful on the left and the right hand flanks. It does give the piece a vintage aesthetic because it doesn't have crown guards as per a 1960s or 1970s skin diver. Large mirror polished undercuts to the flanks. The bevel deletes the sharp edge. This enhances comfort level and feel good factor. So large mirror polished bevel on the undercuts to the flanks on the left and the right hand flank, and it looks good, deletes the meat, but also feels good. That's the point. Let's look at the bracelet in detail. So 20-16 perfection personified taper, correct decision by using female put end links versus male end links. This enhances the fit. Good articulation. They can pivot beneath the tips of the lugs, which gives a more snug fit. That's the benefit. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. Doesn't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side, up and down play. Perfect interference friction fit. Beautiful luster to the brushed satin finishing to the top side and the underside, and that contrasts with the flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. What I like about this is they've got the correct finishing because flanks of the case are mirror polished. That matches the flanks of the bracelet. This is a fundamental that many mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands get incorrect. For example, they will brushed satin finish the flank to the head of the piece, but mirror polish the flanks to the bracelet, so there's a clash. Alternatively, mirror polish the flanks to the head of the piece and brushed satin finish the flanks of the bracelet. Again, that's a clash. But HTD have got it correct because the top of the case is brushed satin finished to match the top of the bracelet being brushed satin finished. Flanks of the head of the piece match the flanks of the bracelet, mirror polished on both. Looks very aesthetically pleasing. No sharp edge to the top edge or the lower edge of the flanks. Doesn't pull arm hairs. Let's check the articulation. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. It's a fluid bracelet, but it's not sloppy, doesn't rattle, doesn't have additional play in it. So that's the benefit of using 1.6mm screw pins versus the production cost cutting measure of push pins. It tightens up the tolerances. So excellent, beautiful luster, nice fine grained satin finish, no sharp edges, doesn't pull arm hairs. Let's check the other side for continuity. Female put end link articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Bracelet articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, it's fluid. No sharp edge to the top edge or the lower edge of the flanks, doesn't pull arm hairs, and it doesn't rattle. Nice and tight, 1.6mm screw pins are the correct choice. So, to remind you, head of the piece comes with an oyster style bracelet fitted to it, which will fit a 6.5 inch wrist size, but in this foam panel in the base, it houses 3 additional oyster style links which will extend the bracelet from 6.5 up to an 8 inch wrist size. Now I have fitted the additional 3 links to fit my 8 inch wrist. I put 1 link on one side and 2 links on the other, and I can confirm, and I'll show you in the wrist shot, this will easily fit an 8 inch wrist. So it comes with 6.5 inch sizing, but you can make it up to 8 inches wrist size. So, bracelet is excellent, finishing is stellar, perfection personified taper. Let's look at the clasp in detail. 2-button push, solid mill 3160 grade stainless steel clasp, brushed satin finish to the body, beautiful luster, brushed satin finish to the flanks. I'd like to see an additional hole drilled in the left and the right hand flank to give it 5 micro adjustments, but 4 does suffice. 2-button push triggers are correctly proportioned, brushed satin finish, no sharp edges, heavily sprung loaded, reliable and robust. Internals are solid mill 3160 grade stainless steel, no sharp edge to the top edge, lower edge of the flanks. Centre section has been deburred, no sharp corners. Let's check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Centre hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Finally, right hand hinge pin, which is actually a spring bar, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. Excellent. Nice tight friction interference fit on the left hand, centre and right hand hinge pins. However, there is an error. They've engraved HTD and stainless steel upside down. It's inverted, as you can see. Now, I'll clarify why I say it's upside down. The majority of collectors are right-handed, therefore they wear the piece on their left wrist. And this is the correct orientation on the left wrist. Then they take the piece off the wrist and rotate it round like so. And then they open the clasp with their right hand, index finger and thumb from left to right, like so. This is the correct orientation. But you can see HTD and stainless steel is now inverted. It should be this way up. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus. That's the correct orientation, inverted. So, bear in mind the majority of collectors are right-handed and they wear the watch on the left wrist. It should be this way up when you open the clasp from left to right, as I've demonstrated. They simply need to invert the engraving. This is a fundamental error that many mid-tier brands and mid-tier microbrands get incorrect, and I apply the same criticism to Hanhart because Hanhart also produce mid-tier pieces, but they also engrave stainless steel upside down, and I was critical with Hanhart doing it, so I'm not just levelling criticism at HTD here. Many other mid-tier brands and mid-tier microbrands, including Hanhart, also do it. And I was critical in my Hanhart review of the same, so they simply need to invert the engraving. That's the point. Let's look at the case back in detail. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, concentric CNC lathe tool machine, provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 metres, milled slots are deburred and chamfered, so no sharp edges. The circumference is mirror polished to a flawless standard, centre section refracts the light with the CNC lathe tool machining. And then we've got this ring around the inner portion, which is matte B blasted effect, and it's got embossed specifications. So 2 HTD shields embossed, and then we've got 316L stainless steel and pressure tested, which denotes this is tested to 200 metres. Now, the embossing feels sharp. Now, when I say sharp, it doesn't feel sharp enough to scratch the wrist, although it does feel rough. It doesn't feel as smooth as the centre section or the mirror polished circumference. So, there's room for improvement with regards to the finishing. It's not as sharp as a Steinhardt Ocean 139, which has deep engraving of Sidon, the Greek god of the sea, and a seahorse, which looks aesthetically pleasing but doesn't feel good. It feels sharp. This is embossed, and I think they could improve upon it by mirror polishing it to delete the sharp edges of the embossing of 316L stainless steel and pressure tested, as well as the 2 HTD shields. The centre section is perfectly smooth because it's lathe tool machined. The circumference is perfectly smooth because it's mirror polished. They simply need to mirror polish the embossing of the specification. The other thing I'd like to see is they could reduce the fonts because the letters are very large. So if they reduce the size of the letters, they could print the full word stainless steel rather than st.steel, and also pressure test rather than just having press press dot for pressure. They could engrave the full word pressure tested. So I think there's room for improvement if they reduce the size of the letters and simply just engrave the case back rather than just embossing it. That would of course reduce the sharpness, but comfort level and feel good factor are okay. There just is room for improvement. That's the point. Female Putin links are a good tight fit to the head of the piece. Now, they've used stainless steel spring bars. They could update this and improve it by using quick release stainless steel spring bars. That would negate the need for a spring bar tool, but nonetheless, the female Putin links are a good tight fit to the head of the piece, which is good. Underside to the head of the piece is concentric CNC lathe tool machines, beautiful lustre to it, large mirror polished bevels. On the undercuts of the flanks, which are deep, this deletes the sharp edge on the undercuts. This enhances comfort level and feel good factor. The case does not scratch the wrist. Also, the tips of the lugs have large bevels, and that deletes the sharp corners. So the case finishing is excellent. Right, so let's test the bezel and crown execution. So scalloped bezel, 120 click unidirectional bezel, as one would expect. Now, it's surprisingly grippy and tactile because it's a smooth bezel with scallops, and of course it isn't as grippy and tactile as a gear tooth bezel or coin edge bezel or Rolex style scalloped bezel, as one would expect, but it's not as slippy as I would think. In terms of how grippy it is, it's as grippy as an Omega Seamaster Professional bezel, and I like it. Now, it's very low profile, as you can see. It's very thin, gives the piece a vintage aesthetic, and of course it is smooth, so one would expect it to be very slippery, but it's not. Even wearing a glove, or if you have a wet hand, you can get good purchase with your index finger and thumb. You don't need to apply excess pressure on it, so it's actually very grippy. It's not as grippy as a coin edge or gear tooth bezel, but it's as grippy as an Omega Seamaster Professional bezel, so that's good enough. Feels even through the 360 degrees rotation, doesn't get tighter or heavier, or lighter, which is good. And I like this loud audible clicks. Sounds good, feels very smooth, doesn't feel rough or gritty, doesn't feel too stiff. So it's not as stiff as a Steinhardt Ocean 139, which is too heavy. It feels heavier than a Rolex Submariner Date 126610. And It feels like a Seiko 5KX. It's got that medium firm resistance, which I actually like. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play, nice and tight. So the resistance is balanced, not too heavy, not too light, even through the 360 degrees. Let's just check the alignment. I'll bring up the Lume pip to bang on the centre of the 12 o'clock index. One more click. Perfect. The Lume pip perfectly aligns with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. So quality control is excellent. It's 10 out of 10. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play, even through the 360 degrees of rotation. Medium foam resistance, perfect alignment. Stellar. Let's test the crown execution. Knurled crown, mirror polished domed cap. I'll just turn it round so you can see it the correct way up. And it's embossed with the HTD shield emblem. Just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. There we are. So they've done a good job of the shield emblem embossing, and it's correctly proportioned. It reminds me of a Rolex Big Crown 6538 Submariner from the 1960s, and that's clearly the aesthetic they were looking for. Absence of crown guards, because the no crown guard case, of course, does give it a 1960s or 1970s skin diver look. Large crown, like a 6538 Big Crown Submariner crown, and I like it. Knurled teeth are aggressive, but they're not sharp. They've been finished to a good standard. Large chamfer, which deletes the sharp tips of the knurled teeth. So very grippy and tactile. One can get good purchase with one's index finger and thumb. Minimal number of turns required to fully unscrew it. Silky smooth. Perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So it's refined. Quality control tolerances are there. So when it's fully unscrewed, one can manually wind the Miyota Caliber 90S5 automatic to its maximum 42-hour power reserve. Feels smooth. No discernible difference between this and other premium 9000 series calibers, such as the 9015 and the 9039, which are my personal favourites, as you'll know from my previous reviews. The 90S5 really is a decorated version of the 9039. It has a plate on the front of the movement with pelage finishing, and of course this isn't a skeletised movement and there's no aperture. It's not an open heart dial, so therefore we can't see the benefit of the decoration, but I can confirm it does have pelage finishing on the main plate. So one doesn't get the benefits of it, but it does give the high grade feel to it. So really it's equal quality to a 9039. The architecture is similar, and it's the no date version of the 9015. Feels smooth to manually wind. Smoother than manually winding an SW200-1 or an NH35A, which you may be familiar with. I like that refinement. Doesn't feel rough or gritty as per a PT5000 and doesn't feel too stiff. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up to 42 hours. Putting it out to the first click position is the hacking, and as you can see it's possible to hack the movement and set the time precisely to the second, so there's no phantom date setting position. I want to give credit to HTD here for not using the 9015, which is the date version, because of course that would have a phantom date setting position, and they've made the correct decision by making this a no date piece, because the 9, 6 and 3 shield indices with the Arabic numerals does give this piece a vintage aesthetic as per a 1960s Yema Superman, or alternatively a 1965 Oris Diver 65. So I like it. No date complication, no phantom date setting position. So now in the time setting position, feels silky smooth. Minimal resistance, feels like a 9015, a 9039. The 9000 series all feel the same. Precise meshing of the gearing, light resistance to it, feels smooth. Feels smoother than an NH35A. I like the refinement of it, and it feels smoother than an SW200-1. Minimal backplay. When you rotate the knurled crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response to the pencil minute hand. You don't need to take up a lot of slack. Less slack than an NH35A, less slack than an SW200-1. I like that almost immediate response. It's very satisfying. Pushing back in's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. The arrowhead tip to the second hand begins to sweep around the dial at the characteristic smooth 4-hertz sweep. You'll know this from my previous reviews. This is something I like about 9000 premium grade Miyota calibers, such as the 9015, 9039 and this 9035 respectively. Sorry, 90S5 respectively. What I like about it is it has that nice smooth 4-hertz sweep. It doesn't stutter or judder like a 3-hertz NH35A running at 21,600 vibrations per hour. That's the benefit of this running at 4 Hz, which is 28,800 vibrations per hour respectively. Nice and smooth, very aesthetically pleasing. Let's test screwing the crown back down. Instant thread pickup. There's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the knurled crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. 200 meters of hermetic seal is good, and I like the smoothness of the threading. The threads pick up, they mate instantly, so you don't need to screw the crown anti-clockwise and clockwise several times to get the threads to mate, to get them to pick up. It picks up first time every time when you rotate it clockwise. The tolerances, the machining, the build quality, quality control are stellar. Very refined. If I had to choose one word to describe the crown execution, it would be refinement. So, I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I have sized the bracelets because, as I've detailed, this comes from HTD with the oyster style bracelet fitted to the head of the piece, sized to fit a 6.5-inch wrist size. But however, HTD appreciates some collectors have a larger wrist, like myself, of 8 inches. So in the foam cutout in the base of the outer box, they include 3 oyster style links. I have fitted 1 link to the 6 o'clock side and 2 links on the 12 o'clock side to size this correctly to my 8-inch wrist. And to reiterate, I've referred to this in my previous reviews, but I will reiterate it again. The correct sizing method, regardless whether a bracelet is a flat link, beads of rice, oyster style or jubilee style bracelet, is to be able to slide an index finger beneath a bracelet and clasp at all times. The reason why that's the correct method, it allows for wrist expansion in warmer weather or when one is active and the wrist swells up, so it effectively gives half a link of expansion on the bracelet. The benefit of that is it doesn't place the screw pins in the bracelets or the links themselves under excess shear load, and therefore it doesn't exacerbate wear in the holes and also wear on the screw pins, and therefore you don't get expedited wear, you don't get a sloppy bracelet with daily wear and tear. It reduces the shear load on the screw pins and the links, that's the point. So correct sizing method, this now perfectly fits my 8-inch wrist. So there are enough links included, an additional 3, to size it up to an 8-inch wrist size. And bear in mind, I'm on the maximum position 4 out of 4 on the micro adjustment holes in the flanks. This is its absolute maximum, 6.5 to 8 inches. There are enough removable links on the 6 side and the 12 o'clock side of the bracelet to size this down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size, so it will fit a 6 and it will also fit an 8-inch with the additional 3 fitted. Now, wrist presence is good. 39.4 does give satisfying wrist presence. It wears more like a 40. 39.4 is just 0.6 below 40. Beautiful case shape. What I like about it is the inner bevels, which are mirror polished, do look visually like lyre lugs or twisted lugs on an Omega Seamaster Professional. Does give a vintage aesthetic. No crown guards case, looks like a skin diver. Large mirror polished bevels also look aesthetically pleasing. Beautiful case shape. Wrist presence is good at 39.4 for a 6 to 7 inch wrist and equally a 7 to 8 inch wrist. There are 2 things I like about this piece above all else. Thickness is one. This is only 11.7, even though it has a 2mm thick box top pack crystal, which does give the aesthetic of a vintage acrylic, plexiglass or Hesalite domed crystal, but of course one has the benefit of AR coating, and of course sapphire crystal, needless to say, is more scratch resistant than acrylic. But visually it does look like a skin diver from the 1960s or 1970s with an acrylic domed crystal. Aluminium bezel insert also gives the piece a vintage aesthetic, and the scalloped bezel adds interest because it's not just the default Submariner style scalloped bezel or alternatively coin edge or gear tooth bezel, which are the industry standards. This scalloped bezel, rather like a Seamaster bezel, does look very aesthetically pleasing when it's low profile. So wrist presence is good. Comfort level and feel good factor are fantastic. So 11.7 is one thing I like, it's low profile. You'll know this from my previous reviews. 13mm and below is the sweet spot, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 or a 7 to 8 inch wrist, because 13 and below will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. At 11.7, it's low profile. It's easily going to slip underneath a shirt cuff. The other thing I like about it is the lack of heft. It's only 138 grams. Now bear in mind, it's 138 with enough links to fit my large 8-inch wrist. I would expect this to be circa 145 to 150 with a 39.4 head of the piece on a perfection personified 20 to 16 oyster style bracelet and a solid mill clasp. It's surprisingly lightweight. 138 is well below the 150 sweet spot, so comfort level is enhanced. They've maximised it, and of course perfection personified taper is correct. It's the industry standard for good reason. For a 38, 39 and 40 head of the piece at 39.4, this is the correct choice. Beautiful taper, beautiful luster to the braces and clasp. What I like about the clasp is it's low profile. This is more low profile than a micro adjustment clasp. That's the benefit. It's not too long for a smaller 6 to 7 inch wrist. Curvature is fantastic. Curvature is good for a 6 to 7. Curvature is good for a 7 to 8. It's not too wide because we have 16mm bracelet width of the clasp. So it's not too wide, it's not too bulky, it's not too thick. Nice curvature on the top side and underside, no sharp edge to the undercuts, so when it moves up and down the wrist it doesn't scratch the wrist. Comfort level is maximised. Very good looking, beautiful lustre to it, large mirror polished bevel, really does look aesthetically pleasing. Beautiful lustre to the bracelet, and that matches the lustre to the clasp, so the finishing is stellar. I really like the aesthetics of it. Box top pad crystal, large 9, 6 and 3 shield Arabic numerals, and also the pencil hands make a refreshing change from using the default option of Mercedes hands, alternatively snowflake hands as per Submariner, alternatively Black Bay homage. I like the large pencil hands, the legibility is good, symmetry of the dial is good, aluminium bezel insert looks very aesthetically pleasing. Feel good factor of this piece is fantastic, it just looks great from every angle. And also, I like the lug to lug. 47. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, 48mm lug to lug is the sweet spot for all wrist sizes. 6 to 7 and 7 to 8 inch wrists respectively. 48 is the perfect lug to lug. At 47, it's just 1mm below the sweet spot, and that's acceptable because you can see the tip of the lugs don't have a large gap. And again, we've got the correct choice of female pitted end links, which pull the oyster style bracelet end link close to the wrist. So it doesn't have a large gap beneath the end of the end link and also the tip of the lugs. Nice curvature. What I like about the case back is it's very flat, so this case curves around the wrist. It doesn't sit on top of the wrist like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel. It wraps around the wrist like a tonneau case. So curvature is good on the top side and the underside. The shape of the case is beautiful. Also like the large bevels because, as I've detailed, they look like lyre lugs or twisted lugs used on the Amiga Speedmaster Professional. Sorry, Seamaster Professional, but also, of course, Seamaster, the Speedmaster and Seamaster both use lyre lugs as per Amiga. So, fantastic looking piece. Feel good factor is good. Comfort level is good. 11.7, very low profile. 138 grams. Not too heavy. It's not top heavy. Fantastic. Right, so I'll do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to its absolute peak. This uses BGW9 on the Lume pip, on the aluminium bezel insert, the printed indices and shield Arabic numeral indices, and also the pencil handset. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers on the Lume pip, 5 to 6 layers on the printed indices, printed shield indices for 9, 6 and 3 Arabic numerals, and the pencil hands. Now, in daylight, the Lume pip, the dial and the hands, they all look pure white. They don't look more cream or white, which is good. In the dark, the potency of the exciter is good. Also, perfect colour tone match. Same blue of the BGW9 on the Lume pip, the dial and the hands. I like it, and I like that it's a symmetrical dial with a 9, 6 and 3 shield Arabic numerals printed for the indices, rather than just having a asymmetrical dial with a date complication at 3 or 6 o'clock. So symmetry is good, potency of the exciter is good, and I like the even application on the printed indices and the Arabic numerals. It's a full 5 to 6 layers, and they've done a very good job here because you can see it's an even application of the 5 to 6. I like the large 12 o'clock index on the dial and the symmetry, the 9, 6 and 3. It does remind me of the MS Superman 9, 6 and 3 shield indices, and also the Oris Divers 65. They also have similar 9, 6 and 3. Does give the piece of vintage aesthetic, and I like the proportions of the printed indices. Fantastic. I'm pleased to see they haven't used any production cost cutting measure such as 3 to 4 layers on the dial. It's 5 to 6. Right, so let's discuss the movement used because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So this is powered by the Miyota Caliber 90S5 automatic, which is made in Japan. The architecture of the 90S5 is similar to other 9000 premium calibers such as the 9015 and 9039, which are my personal favourites, as you'll know from my previous reviews. So the 90S5 is based upon the architecture of the 9039. The only notable difference is it has a plate on the front of the movement which is decorated with pelage finishing, but we don't see the benefit of that because this isn't a skeletonized dial or open heart dial with an aperture, but I can confirm it does have pelage finishing on the front of the movement. So it's a decorated version of the 9039 effectively, and they call it the 90S5. It's particularly suitable for open hearts and also skeletonized dials because it shows the pelage. But in terms of quality, it's equal to the 9015, which is the date version, and equal quality to the 9039, which is the low profile, no date version. It has 24 joules, it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. Benefit is nice smooth sweep of the 4 Hz second-hand. Hand winding and hacking are used for complications, and they work correctly, as I've demonstrated. No phantom date setting position. That's the benefit of not using the 9015 date version. 42-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. Stated accuracy is -10 to +30 seconds per day. So rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that HTD are doing a good job of regulating the 90S5s they're using in 5 positions to chronometer limits of -4 to +6. So this one is running consistently at +3 seconds per day, which is actually within chronometer limits of -4 to +6. +3 is well within the stated accuracy of -10 to +30. Nothing unusual for a 9000 series, such as the 90S5 used in this piece. Are there any negatives to it? None whatsoever. Reliability is proven beyond question. It's a premium 9000 series, Miyota caliber made in Japan. Hand winding works well, hacking works well, setting the time works well. It is a high quality movement. I regard the 90S5 as equal quality to a Sellita caliber SW200-1, Soprod caliber P024, or ETA caliber 2824-2. That's the level of quality. It's a level above the 8000 series Miyota, such as the 8215 and 8315 respectively. It's a level above the Seiko NH35A and NH38A respectively. Correct choice. For example, HTD deserve credit here because they could have taken the less expensive option of using the Seiko NH38A, for example, which is the no-date version of the NH35A you're all familiar with. But of course this piece would then be 13mm plus with the 2mm thick box top pack crystal and 200 meters. So this is the correct version because the 90S5 is low profile, rather like the 9039, because it's the no date version of it, and therefore one doesn't have a date complication or a date twill, it's deleted. So this piece can be slimmed down to only 11.7 as a result, even though it has a 2mm thick box top pack crystal, which of course adds thickness. 11.7 is fantastic. So it's a low profile piece. Correct choice of caliber. The 9039 would have been the alternative, but they are really equal. So, no negatives to the caliber whatsoever. It's one of my personal favourites. I like the smoothness of the manual winding, I like the hacking, I like the 4Hz sweep, and I like the accuracy. +3 is stellar. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So mid-tier piece, mid-tier is €500 to €5,000. This is €817. I'm going to declare it excellent quality, and I'm going to declare the value as okay. The reason why I say the value is okay, not good or excellent, is because this does face some stiff competition from other mid-tier brands and mid-tier micro brands between €500 and €5,000. For example, Trasker Freediver. The Trasker Freediver goes directly head-to-head at this price point, €817, but of course that has a micro-adjustment clasp, and it's subjective because this is inspired by 1960s or 1970s skin divers, and of course that predated the use of micro-adjustment clasp. Some collectors would prefer the aesthetic of this having a mill clasp with micro-adjustment holes in the flanks, which it does have. It's better than a press clasp, but not as good as a micro-adjustment clasp used on the Freediver. So that's the reason why I downgrade it from excellent or good value down to okay. Specification is good. BGW9, AR coating, sapphire crystal, and of course the 90S5 is a premium caliber. That justifies the price point. So the value is okay, it's at 817, but I would like to see HTD lower the price to make it more competitive, and therefore that would increase the value proposition. But quality control, build quality, materials, finishing are all stellar. No QC issues whatsoever. Bezel execution is excellent. Crown execution is silky smooth. And Bracelet is very well finished. No additional play. They've done a very good job of finishing it. So I like everything about it. Movement is correct, and it does look like a fantastic piece. Feel good factor and comfort level are both very good. So I'm going to highly recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the HTD Aquatic Spaceboy. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.